The best prison on our list is San Quentin State Prison in the United States. San Quentin State Prison in California is notorious for its violent conditions and history of riots. Despite efforts to improve, the prison remains a dangerous place, housing some of the state's most violent criminals. The facility has seen numerous riots and incidents of brutality, both from inmates and guards. Its reputation for violence and harsh conditions makes it one of the most infamous prisons in the United States. The only reason it's at the bottom of this list, as unfortunately there's a lot worse than this. Number 20, we have Pyatak Prison in Russia. It's known as Russia's Alcatraz, housing the country's most dangerous criminals. Inmates endure extreme solitary confinement, leading to severe mental deterioration over time. The prison is located on a remote island, making escape nearly impossible. The harsh conditions and isolation results in high rates of mental illness among inmates, making this one of the most feared prisons in Russia. Number 19, we move to Kenya with Committee Maximum Security Prison, which is located in Nairobi. This place suffers from a problem that a lot of them on this list do, which is overcrowding. It houses 3,800 inmates in a facility designed for 800, so I think you can imagine how bad that must be. Because of this, the prison suffers from unsanitary conditions, a lack of medical care, and frequent violence. Inmates face constant abuse from guards and other prisoners, leading to a harsh and dangerous environment. The overcrowding exacerbates the spread of diseases, making survival a daily challenge for inmates. Number 18, we have Carandiru Penitentiary, which is located in Sao Paulo in Brazil. This prison was actually closed in 2002 after a large-scale massacre. The prison was notorious for extreme disease and inhumane conditions. Inmates lived in constant fear and lacked proper medical care. The massacre brought international attention to the prison's brutal environment, leading to its closure. Number 17, we have ADX Florence in Colorado. It's known for its extreme isolation and sensory deprivation. Inmates spend 23 hours a day in solitary confinement with minimal human interaction and outdoor time. The prison is designed to house the most dangerous criminals in the US, employing strict security measures to prevent escape. The isolation and lack of stimulation leads to severe psychological effects, making ADX Florence a mental torture chamber for its inmates. Number 16, we move to France with La Santé Prison in Paris. It has a reputation for severe overcrowding and harsh conditions. I said it'd be a theme of this list. Inmates often face issues with poor mental health, but here's something ironic for you viewers who don't speak French. The prison's name, Santé, means health. I mean, I guess they're not going to call it a big box of pain, but I think there's a middle ground between the two. At number 15, we have Tadmor Military Prison in Syria, which is located in the desert. It was infamous for its brutality until its destruction in 2015. A massacre in the 1980s saw thousands of inmates injured by the defence brigades. Inmates were subjected to harsh treatments and many didn't survive the severe conditions. At number 14, for all those watching in the US, you'll be happy to know you've got another one on the list. With Rikers Island. Rikers Island is in New York and it's known for its extreme violence and harsh conditions, like most of them on this list. But the state did attempt to reform the prison. SWAT teams conduct daily searches and confiscate weapons. Despite these efforts, Rikers Island remains one of the most dangerous and infamous prisons in the United States, with a history of brutality and corruption. Okay, at number 13, we have another prison that suffers from overcrowding. We have Mendoza Prison. This place was designed for 600 inmates but houses 1,600. Amnesty International has condemned the conditions, noting the inmates often leave the prison worse off than when they arrived due to the extreme abuse and lack of facilities. Prisoners suffer from inadequate sanitation, a lack of medical care, and frequent violence from guards and other inmates. But still, unfortunately, the list does get worse, so you've been warned. At number 12, we have my least favourite on the list because it has a long name which is difficult to pronounce with my uneducated brain. It is Penal de Ciudad Barrios Prison, I believe. Probably wrong. But anyway, it's in El Salvador. And it has a guard to inmate ratio of 1 to 50, and this lack of supervision allows inmates to form hierarchies and gangs, leading to frequent disorder. The guards are pretty much powerless to enforce the rules, resulting in a lawless environment where survival basically depends on being on the right side of the most powerful inmate groups. Number 11, we have El Rodeo Prison. Yeehaw! Okay, I'm sorry about that, and I promise never to again if you like this video. This place is in Venezuela and is one of the country's most violent prisons, housing 50,000 inmates, so it's a big boy. Again, gangs are very common and prison guards are unable to maintain control over them, which means inmates face such brutal conditions. So bad that the armed forces had to intervene. The prison's severe overcrowding and lack of resources makes it just a massively dangerous and chaotic environment. At number 10, we have Diyarbakir Prison in Turkey. Yeah, these prisons are definitely getting harder to listen to, mainly because it's harder for me to pronounce the names. But anyway, Diyarbakir Prison in Turkey opened in the 1980s and it's known for its extreme brutality and inhumane conditions. The prison became infamous for hunger strikes and protests by inmates desperate to draw attention to their plight. Despite this, with overcrowding, unsanitary facilities and a lack of medical care, these awful conditions continue. Number 9, we head back to Russia with a prison that basically takes overcrowding to a new level. we have Butayka Prison. So each cell was built to hold 10 inmates within it, but now it often crams 100 prisoners into the same space, which is basically over double as bad as number 19 on this list. Great. Because of the extreme overcrowding, the spread of diseases such as tuberculosis is so common. And to top it off, there's a lack of medical care, so good luck if you end up there. At number 8, we have another prison in Nairobi in Kenya. I'm sure they'll be happy to see that. It was established in 1911 to hold 800 inmates, but now houses over 4,000. This means cells that are built for 3 people often house about 12 inmates at a time. If you can't imagine it, I'm going to paint you a picture now. Imagine you're living at your lovely family home with your wife and kid. White picket fences, lovely back garden, perfect. And then your whole family move in with you and they're all dangerous prisoners. I know I wouldn't be happy with that. Because the prison's infrastructure has not kept up with the population increase, all the facilities have degraded over time and it makes survival a daily struggle for the inmates. At number 7 we have Black Beach Prison. Is that a beach resort? No, I doubt it. And it's in Equatorial Guinea. I'm going to sum this one up a bit quicker. It has overcrowding, yep. Malnutrition, yep. Chronic diseases, and frequent beatings by guards. Wonderful. And to top it all off, it has rats. Yay! Let's move on to number 6. We have San Juan de Lurigancho in Peru, which is one of South America's most notorious prisons. You know all this by now, but it was built for 2,500 inmates, so you double that, double it again, and it houses over 11,000. Bad. The prison is effectively run by inmates, and they do what you'd imagine they'd do, engage in lots of illegal activities. Guards are severely outnumbered and unable to maintain control. The prison's conditions are further worsened by corruption, with guards often turning a blind eye to illegal activities in exchange for bribes. Moving into the top 5 now, we have Gladani Prison in Georgia, which is notorious for the abuse of inmates by prison guards. In 2012, a video surfaced showing guards assaulting prisoners, bringing international attention to the prison's conditions. The exposure of these abuses led to public outcry and demand for reform, but many issues persist, making this one of the most harshest prisons in the world. But not the harshest, as you'll find out as we're nearing number 1. Number 4, we have Camp 22 in North Korea. Yeah, it's going to be bad. It is one of the most secretive and brutal political prisons in the world, spanning over 87 square miles. It is isolated from the rest of the country and operates under extreme secrecy. The prison holds around 50,000 inmates, many of whom are detained for political reasons, such as criticising the government. Prisoners often face lifelong detention and are subjected to forced labour under primitive conditions. They work in mines and fields with minimal tools and face brutal treatment from guards. Malnutrition and near starvation are common, and the prison's isolation means that the inmates have little hope of release or outside assistance. Number 3, we have Gitarama Central Prison in Rwanda, which is infamous for its extreme overcrowding. Yeah, another one. Originally built for 400 inmates, it holds around 7,000, which is severe overcrowding. It forces prisoners to stand or huddle together with no room to lie down. Inmates suffer from severe infections due to prolonged standing on filthy floors and have had to undergo amputations. The dire conditions stem from a lack of infrastructure and resources, exacerbated by the prison's history dating back to the 1990s, when Rwanda experienced a significant influx of prisoners. At number 2, we have the final prison in Russia, Black Dolphin Prison, which has nothing to do with SeaWorld. It's a prison in Russia which is located near the Kazakhstan border and is reserved for the country's most dangerous criminals. Upon arrival, prisoners are blindfolded and handcuffed to prevent them from mapping out the prison, which reduces escape attempts. Inmates live in near total isolation, spending 23 hours a day in their cells and 1 hour of solitary exercise. The strict regime includes continuous surveillance and harsh conditions that lead to severe psychological distress. We've all seen from the prison documentaries what isolation can do to the brain in just 1 or 2 weeks, but this is unfortunately the life of many of the prisoners here. Congratulations on making it all the way to number 1, but quickly before I tell you the worst prison on this list, I just want to say thank you for all the recent likes, subscribes and comments. It's great to see you helping me grow this little channel of mine. Thanks. Number 1, we have La Sabaneta Prison in Venezuela. Like most of the prisons on this list, it suffers from extreme overcrowding and violence, but just like a cherry on top, it has more issues as well. Designed to only hold 700 inmates, it currently houses around 3,700, highlighting the severe overcrowding. And then the prison suffers from chronic understaffing, with a guard-to-inmate ratio of 1 to 150, which is by far the worst on this list, making it nearly impossible to maintain order within the prison. This means basically gangs control the prison. La Sabaneta is a truly perilous place and worthy of being number 1 on this list. If you like this video and you want to see more, I've got good news for you. I'm basically working on uploading 1 a week, so subscribe so you don't miss out. See you soon.